Do a little bit of a different video today. Today's a work day. I'm working from home. I'm self-employed, so I'm working in my shop, aka my garage, as you can see behind me. And I have some time before my guys get here to help me, so I'm going to do this short video about what do you buy if you're looking to get into bass fishing and you know nothing. And this is from the point of view of a weekend fisherman, me. I'm not pro fisherman. I go on the weekends maybe twice a week if I'm feeling really flexible in my schedule. But I've really keyed in on what works for me, and none of this stuff is none of it's a mystery, none of it's a secret. It's all stuff that works for a lot of people. And I would suggest anybody looking to get into the sport picking up a few of these things. You can get it anywhere. You can get it at Dick's Sports, you can get it at Walmart, any local mom and pop shop will have it, which I would suggest you go to first before the big box stores, if you have one in your area, because especially the owner will most likely be able to give you better tips than the overworked, underpaid employees at a Walmart or a Dick's Sports. Although the Dick's Sports in Kingston had this really great guy there for a long time who was just like the classic old-timer fisherman who would give you all the tips, but most of the time that's not the case. So these are the things I recommend you go for, and I'm not going to get into setups. I'm not going to get into how to fish these things. YouTube is loaded with that stuff. You can take this and go from here. Okay. First thing I recommend is the Senko Texas Rig. This is not tied up to a line, but you want to get some offset worm hooks. These are Gamakatsus, some bullet weights, and some Senko worms. This is a darker color. I recommend getting one that's dark, one that's light, and one that's somewhere in the middle. 3 colors, because you're going to want to use darker stuff in cloudier water. That'll make a contrast. I like to use, most of the time I use worms that are like this, that have kind of a contrast built into them. It's kind of a catch-all. I catch more on this color personally than I do this color, but they both work. These are called Senkos. There's a lot of companies that make these. These are made by Gary Yamamoto. Actually, this one is made by Yum. This is a Gary Yamamoto, but they all generally work. The other things you can get are crankbaits. These are great for going deep. Great deep diving bait. They come in a ton of different colors and a ton of different sizes. This one's kind of in the middle. You can get Rapalas. This particular one is a floating Rapala. This is a perch pattern. I've been catching fish on these since I was 8 years old. Great time-tested lures. More of a newer revelation is a swim bait. This one's made by Storm, and see this little, they call that a paddle tail. When you swim through the water, they look like little fish, and it's already built in. The hook's built in, the weight's built in, so this is a real simple thing to tie on. I'm not going to show you how to tie it on. There's a million videos on that. Maybe another time. I catch bass on these fairly often. That's my neighbor. My neighbor Thor. And if a little bit more advanced, but still pretty simple, you can use these offset hooks, or you can use an EWG hook, which I don't have. I don't have one sitting here, but oh wait, yes I do. You just have to get a slightly different hook. This is called a toad hook. Rubber toads. Kind of the same, you know, made of the similar material as your friend the worm. But these kind of have the kicky legs, and you can rig them weedless also like the worm and fish around weeds and stuff. And that's, you'll find a lot of bass. I catch a lot of bass and pickerel on these. And that's a good place to start. Okay, unless you're using live bait, you know, you can fish worms and minnows, which I rarely ever do. But that group of things is a good place to start for anybody. You don't want to go out, you don't want to go buy the store first, because you're gonna end up buying a lot of stuff that doesn't work, or you'll never use. And I have tons of it myself. You know, don't go crazy buying the soft baits at first, because they're expensive when the prices add up, and you'll just end up like I have bags of things that I don't know. One day I'll probably pass them on to someone, but I never use them because I've never caught fish on them. So that's a good group of things to start out with. And like I said, YouTube has 1,000,001 videos on how to rig the Texas rig, how to fish a crankbait, when and where to use a Rapala. You know, get a few things, look up how to use them, you know, invest a little bit of money, don't go crazy, and then out of those things, see what works, buy more if it works. All right, I hope that was helpful. I'm going to try and do more of these videos where I kind of provide my insights as somebody who is very much a amateur weekend angler, not a pro bass fisherman. I personally feel some of those videos, while they're very informative, where you got these two guys that fish every single day for a living, and they're like, hey guys, this is what you got to use, and they'll open up their box of baits, like 5 flannel boxes of like 30 different variations of the same lure, and they just constantly switch. It's like, yeah, these work. It's like, well, yeah, they work for you because you have 90 of them in different shades and different weights and different retrieve patterns and all that, and that's great. But for most people, we don't have that. We don't have those resources available, or the time to fish that many things. So, you know, and if you were to tell me tomorrow, like, we're gonna go bass fishing, you can only bring one thing, that's it. That's what I'm bringing. If we're going bass fishing, can only bring one thing, that's probably what I'm gonna bring, depending on the situation, but most of the time that's what I'm gonna bring. And there's old timers that will say the same thing, because it works. It works. And if you said I was gonna bring 2 things, well, I'd probably throw that in the box. Okay? If I was gonna bring 2 things, that would be it, because they work. And there's other things like MEPS lures and spinner baits and all that, but there's a whole other world. I can go that, and that kind of crosses over into trout fishing. So I hope this helps, and good luck out there.